Eat human.
Les humains à leur meilleur.
C'est tu apogeo.
ピーク人間
Pitów to nie miód.
Hey there, everyone. This is your host, Brian Sanders, founder of Sapien.org, NoseToTail.org, and creator of the upcoming Food Lies film. We're back with a little break from the episodes with Mary from our trip to Africa for an awesome episode on skin health. This is an important topic to many people and should not be missed by anyone, for that matter. The skin is the largest organ in the body and needs to be cared for like any other organ. Luckily, it's a lot easier to care for because it's hanging out on the outside. But this makes it hard to take care of because, you guessed it, it's on the outside. Luckily, like almost everything I cover here on this podcast, you can heal your skin with a good diet. It's pretty amazing how important your diet is to every system and part of your body. We also talk about some other techniques like cleansing and washing and skincare products. Spoiler alert, the skincare products are made from beef tallow, and I have them available on NoseToTail.org. You can also make your own beef tallow skincare products if you have the time and interest. I had a great time talking to Stuart, and he's a real pro at helping people clear up issues such as eczema, psoriasis, dermatitis, and more. He's got a big YouTube channel where he makes a ton of helpful videos on the topic and also works with people directly. Before we get to the episode, I'll mention a few other things we make at NoseToTail.org. You can make a box of items and get free shipping anywhere in the 48 contiguous states if you hit the minimums. Other than the skin food and soap products, we have the biltong, which is soft, air-dried grass-fed meat with no curing agents like nitrates or sugar. The Drovors is the stick version of this, which some people like even better. So far, the peri peri flavor is a crowd favorite. We also have the seasonings, which are very unique. Other than them not having sugar fillers or anything else, other than the fresh herbs and spices, I've neglected to mention possibly the biggest secret to why they're so good. They are all freshly ground. This is not the case with any other mass-produced seasonings available at stores. I teamed up with some great guys that make this themselves and get the ingredients in their whole form and grind it fresh for each batch we make for Nose to Tail. This makes a huge difference in the taste. Of course, we have our staples, the primal ground beef with liver, heart, kidney, and spleen mixed in, as well as a low omega-6 chicken and pork. We feed these animals a special diet so they have an unparalleled omega-6 omega-3 ratio. Make a box now at NoseToTail.org. For our health programs and tribe, go to Sapien.org. This is the best place to go to start your health journey or continue it. The Sapien program is 10 weeks and will give you everything you need to know to get going along with your very own health coach. This is backed by Dr. Gary at Evolve Healthcare in Los Angeles, but it can be done anywhere in the world. The tribe is a private community with all the perks, bonus features, and nose-to-tail discounts for members. Find that also at Sapien.org. Thanks for supporting these things so we don't have to take outside sponsors. I really take pride in turning down all the offers I get each week. Thanks for sharing this with a friend, giving the show a review on iTunes or the Apple Podcast app, and don't forget to start back at episode 1. Please enjoy this one with Rob. All right, we're live. Stuart, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Brian. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. I'm glad to hear you're settling into Omaha.
Yeah, it's been a really fun process, rebuilding a house, remodeling a house, and getting through the winter here in Omaha. I haven't been in a harsh environment in a lot of years in the winter, so it's been a learning experience with a little bit of a learning curve, but all is good, brother.
That's good to hear. Well, for the audience, we're going to do a skin podcast all about the skin. We'll touch on the gut, skin disorders, conditions. I'm glad to do this, do an official podcast just about this because it's super important. And even to me, I've solved all my problems in my health and body composition and everything. But then I've always had these nagging skin things my whole life. And it's kind of like the last thing that I'm working on. So we'll get into that. But maybe you can tell us your backstory with skin issues.
Yeah. So my whole focus as a coach and content creator is around skin diseases like eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis, rosacea, sebderm, all of that. And my background is that I was one of those people that grew up with sensitive skin, and I had lots of allergies, and my skin was always red and flaky, the dandruff, the itchiness. It kind of went undiagnosed because I have kind of parents that are like, if it's not broken and you're not bleeding, deal with it. We're not going to the doctor, which I totally appreciate, and I'm that way too. So throughout my entire life, I had 3 different forms or 4 different forms: eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis, sebderm, rosacea popping up. And in my late 20s, it totally took over my entire body. Couldn't work anymore. I was constantly flared up, flaky, itchy, oozing, infected. I spent around $80,000 doing the Western medicine thing over a course of like 3 years, going to Mexico, driving to New York to see specialists, and everything made it worse. Nothing dented my health, nothing dented my skin. And worst of all, kind of doctors were like, there's no cure, there's no way to heal. You just have to take these drugs forever and deal with the symptoms. So at that point I hit rock bottom, and I was like, this doesn't feel right. Like, I'm a human being. If I do the things that humans are supposed to do, and I get my gut biome back in order, and I get my hormones back in order, and I get my immune system balanced again, I'd be willing to bet my skin looks a lot different. And I started this journey, and a year in, my skin was butter, totally cured. That was almost 9 years ago. So I've been on this path over the past 9 years of spreading the word of how to go about naturally healing eczema, dermatitis, and psoriasis, coaching people and creating content around it. And it's really my fascination and my obsession. It's kind of like my cross to bear in this life. And I appreciate what having the disease has done for me. And I've been really excited to spread the word on how to get rid of it for people.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you do this full time. I know you've worked with over 1,000 clients. You have a great popular YouTube channel on this. And let's dive in here, because I love that you did it with the diet and you went against the doctor's recommendations. And I have my own stories about these going to skin doctors and them, saying, hey, no one knows how this stuff happens. You just got to deal with it. And I was even telling them, I told this story before, but I told a certain dermatologist, like, hey, I ate this certain thing over the weekend, and then it flared up. And this lady was like laughing at me.
Mm-hmm.
She was just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you get mocked. You get mocked right out of the room. It's been like the ongoing joke. I put out a video a couple of days ago where I acted the way doctors act, and they have a script. It's what parts of your body are itching? Okay, boom, check the DSM book. What medication correlates with those symptoms? Here's what you have. What about diet? Fuck diet. What about natural treatments? No such thing. What about healing from the inside out? Get the hell out of here. Buy my drugs. It sucks. It's an absolute joke.
It's really sad. And I guess that's your journey and mission, is to change that notion. So inside out, healing from the inside out. So it's funny, because you did a different kind of diet in the beginning but had good results. And
I did.
Yeah. But before you go into it, I just want to say, what I talk about is a sapient framework, right? It's not just one way of doing things. And as long as we're doing something with whole foods, I think you are on the right track. So this doesn't surprise me that much, that you went more the plant-based route. So maybe you could tell us your journey.
100%. I would agree that from a starting place, if you just take away all processed foods and focused on whole, real foods, you're going to be in an awesome place. My journey was super strange, to be honest, because I cured my skin disease on a vegan diet. But here's the thing that people are confusing, and here's the thing where people can take years off of their healing by learning from my mistakes, is I healed my skin despite the vegan diet, not because of. I lived on fruit, potatoes, and rice. That's it. There weren't any other foods. And that's 8 years of eating like 4 foods only. And when you do that, a lot of times healing is more about what you're not eating. But being healthy is more about how you nourish your body. So I was able to rid the disease, but I was not in an optimum health place as a vegan. I developed some major health issues 8 years as a vegan, including 9 teeth being pulled now at this point. I have 4 of them still missing. I have to get implants. I went to the dentist 3 times a year. I got cleanings. I brushed my teeth daily. I flossed. I had perfect dental hygiene, and my mouth, because of the vegan diet, a carb-based diet, I'm still recovering from it 4 years later, basically 3.5 years later. So I did heal on a vegan diet and a plant-based diet, but it led to a lot of other issues, hormonal issues, gut health issues. And now for the past 3.5 years, I've been carnivore focused. And I would say 98% is meat-based. Like if you were to do my calories over the past 3 years, probably 98% from animal fats and proteins. And I have seen, without trying to sound like an infomercial douchebag, a dramatic difference in every biomarker that I have. I'm talking a few weeks after going carnivore, my skin flushed and got color back. My eyes my girlfriend at the time was like, your eyes, they look alive again. Like you got some juice in your body. And I went from 149 pounds to 190 pounds in 1 year. And that's without changing my workouts or trying to bulk or anything, just eating tons of meat.
Lots of muscle, but just for people listening, Rob looks great if you're not watching the video version.
Thanks. Yeah, it was 190, like from 149 to 190, I lost body fat and gained muscle. And so that's as an athlete I'm almost 42, that's a really hard feat to do without steroids. And it was actually very easy. Like I said, I didn't change my workouts. I just ate different. And the gut biome, my hormones, my mood, my brain, the way I articulate, the way I relate to people, and even my appreciation for animals, it was all different.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. That's all the things that vegans say that they care about, but you're kind of flipping it on its head a little bit.
Yeah, man, I'm in a funny place with the whole vegan world because I respect and honor anyone who goes on that health journey, no matter if they're like, I'm doing raw vegan or I'm doing carnivore, whatever, man. I got respect for you because it takes a lot of discipline and work and life changes. But as a community in general, I think that it has 2 major things working against it. One is the pharmaceutical industry and the FDA and the people who create shit food, all the same people, have now learned that the plant-based word or the vegan word is now synonymous with health and the environment, even though it's kind of not. And so they're just clickbaiting people like crazy. It won't go on for a long time. But I have a major problem with that. The misinformation, the disinformation, the absolute focus on taking broccoli from New York and shipping it to California and taking pecans from Brazil. That's not natural. That's not local. That's not healthy in my opinion. So there's a lot of issues with the vegans. I don't want to focus too much on them, but I do respect anyone who has a journey. But what I tell all people is do your thing and be honest with yourself and honest with your results and leave everyone else alone because it's confusing enough.
Yeah, it's confusing when people, especially for an average person that hears that a vegan diet can heal this, and then they hear a carnivore diet can heal the same thing. It makes no sense to them. But back to the Sapien framework, it makes sense because of the whole foods. And yeah, I don't want to touch on veganism forever, but I just got back from Africa, so I'm always just going to be thinking about that lens now. Mm-hmm. And I just put out a post about how funny the vegan fairy tale is once you visit Africa, where everyone there is just trying to get enough meat.
Yeah.
All they say is, I want more meat, or how can I get more milk in my diet? Where can we get a cow? Like, it's all based around that.
Yeah. I think the easiest crushing of the vegan diet is go alone into a winter environment in the wild and try to be vegan. You'll die fast. and it'll hurt bad. If you just pop on A&E or Nat Geo or Discovery, watch The Last Alaskans, watch Life Below Zero. Subsistence living is human living. And subsistence living at its best is some local fruit that might be seasonal plus animals. That's about it. You can do some other stuff here and there, but you're not going to survive in the Arctic Circle growing kale in your igloo. It's never going to happen.
Absolutely. And, it's also interesting in Africa, everyone there has amazing skin, right? Every single person. And I was thinking about America and me growing up with acne and everyone, it's like, oh, teens get acne, of course. I didn't see that over there. I saw skin models everywhere I went.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was watching the content. I was noticing the same thing. It's like beautiful, symmetrical skin. That's like, I notice that every time I see stuff with actually all tribal people. I've noticed that. It's like the whole Weston Price thing. He doesn't touch on this at all. But what I noticed when I really study his work, same thing with the teeth is the same thing with the eyes and the skin. They're like supple, one single tone with the skin, and then the eyes are there, like they're alive. And I think that the skin's a reflection of your inner world for sure.
Yeah. And they're just not getting the processed foods yet. And that's, they are getting some of these oils and these cooking oils. And I mean, I think that's what happens, with you call it pizza face in America, right? Mm-hmm. So it's that combination of the carbs and the fat and the oils and the seed oils. And yeah, I mean, so far they don't have those over there, but I guess they are creeping in. And anyway, what are the worst foods? I guess I just mentioned probably the same ones you're gonna list, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a laundry list of possible trigger foods for the skin health community. I have kind of compiled a pretty decent outlook on some groups of foods to be careful with, and maybe in the beginning of your journey, if you're on that skin health journey, eliminate all of these foods and start simple and then slowly add. But things that are major ones are like coffee, foods that contain lots of spices like paprika, sriracha, any type of hot sauce, any type of like spicy food isn't going to do you well. The 4 foods, I put a video out about this the other day. I did a meta-analysis of all 8 years of my coaching, and the 4 foods that over 90% of my clients cannot handle at all: cruciferous vegetables, all of them, broccoli, cauliflower, spinach, all of that stuff, kale, beans, and I'm talking across the board, even benign tofu, black beans, garbanzo beans, can't handle them. Number 3 is all nuts and seeds. And I'm talking nut butters from almonds, and the only one that is the kind of variation that the most people can handle is small amounts of chia seeds, and the tiniest amounts of almonds, walnuts, and Brazil nuts can be handled but aren't tolerated well. So those 3 foods are considered ultra healthy to most people, and for the population I've worked with are trigger foods 100% across the board. Now, if we take a step back, I think we do have to, and maybe this is obvious to your crowd, but maybe someone listening is not catching this. Fast food, no chance. Restaurant food, most of it, that's not going to happen for a really long time. Microwave, processed, pre-made, packaged food, trigger foods. Seed oils, trigger foods. Even things like yerba mate, kombucha, things that are considered ultra healthy, horrible for skin health sufferers.
Wow. So what about grains, refined grains? You didn't mention those.
Yeah, those surprisingly, for the population that I work with, are more of a mixed bag. Like potatoes and very simple things like quinoa, white rice, and brown rice tend to be just kind of like in the middle. But when we're talking about refined flour, then combined with seed oils, that's the worst case scenario.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm finding. So I'll call myself out for not being good at, keeping strict, but I was in Africa, and then we had a lot of the really whole foods most of the time. And then at the end, I was like, oh, let's try this, let's try that.
Yeah.
And then I got a little, you call it sebderm, it's seborrheic, maybe you can say seborrheic dermatitis.
Yeah, seborrheic dermatitis, or some people call it seborrheic dermatitis.
So that's kind of this, I think it's associated with dandruff, but it's also associated with like kind of flaky skin around like kind of your face or like your eyebrows or something like that. So that's my last thing that I mentioned earlier, that if I mess around a little, I can get a little of that. So yeah. And I think it's, if I eat, if it is like sort of a more refined food, like refined grains and seed oil combo, it seems like that's when it happens.
Yeah, and everyone's got a different puzzle piece that's going to trigger them. And some people, here's the hardest part, like you've taken your health to a place where you have that sensitivity and that knowledge of when you eat something, you can kind of tell, all right, it digested well, it didn't, it felt good, it didn't, it created good energy, it didn't, or it messed my skin up, or it didn't. People who are really new to eating clean, they don't have that ability yet. And so in the beginning, the confusing part is flare-ups are going to happen whether you're eating perfect or not. And so you have to kind of get a lot of consistency under your belt to get the gut biome and the immune system to a place where it's got like a baseline of health. Then from there, you can actually start pinpointing through a process of just customizing your diet of what trigger foods are the trigger foods for you long term. I know there's certain trigger foods that I have clients that can't touch, but I can indulge in all day long, and they're actually healthy for me, like cream. Like I used to think that butter and cream was the devil. My God, I'm a cream baby. I do like 1,000 calories of cream daily. I do probably 1,000 calories of butter if I'm not doing cream, and it's a major staple, and it feels and works amazing for me, but it's not going to work amazingly for all people.
Yeah, this stuff is really needs to be customized, and that's for sure. And that's why you got to, it's better to work with someone. But what's interesting to me is the foods you listed. Well, okay, maybe we'll do what are the best foods you think? I mean, I know you're already talking about animal-based diets, but what are the good foods here?
So far, and over the past 5 years, I've really been focusing more on, okay, we got to figure out what to avoid, but what are the proper foods that are going to push the healing forward? And it's the basics. It's the carnivore basics. It's the nose to tail style. It's eating a wide variety of animal fats and proteins that you are attracted to. And I think that being attracted to your food is a major part of being healthy. If you're not attracted to it, if it doesn't taste good, if it doesn't kind of make your mouth water, it's going to be hard to sustain. And it's really going to be hard to derive nutrients if you're sitting there white knuckling a meal. The body doesn't really work that well. So whatever you can find, be it salmon, beef, even like bison, chicken, turkey, pastured eggs, all animal foods that are sourced well and the fats from them across the board are probably the thing to focus on for most people. The other thing that works well is very basic fruit, talking apples, bananas, mangoes, basic stuff in small amounts. When you keep your sugar not too high, 100 grams or less is usually where I keep my clients. Less is better, but 100 grams is like the sweet spot you can't go over. But as long as you're 100 grams or under, and then getting a ton of fat and protein from animal foods, and then the rest of your food, low glycemic vegetables, super basic things like lettuce or bok choy, those things can work really good. I start almost all my clients who are ready for it carnivore, full strict carnivore with a little fruit, and then we customize forward moving from there. It's a much easier place to start there than it is even AIP or paleo or keto, where you have a ton of plant toxin variables that are going to mess you up.
Yeah. What about fermented foods?
I think that fermented foods have, throughout time been associated with awesome health. And I think that certain fermented foods work really well, others don't. For instance, kombucha for some reason, it just destroys the skin. I don't know if it's too acidic or too registic or just too stimulating early on in the game, or if it's just something that maybe kombucha is just a BS drink that's beer without alcohol, and no one really should be drinking it. It's like it's a leftover scarcity drink. It's not a hunter's drink anyway. But
it's pretty sugary usually too.
Yes, definitely. But sauerkraut for certain people can be awesome. You know, I've drinking sauerkraut juice. I've used a lot of sauerkraut on my food, even with my meat. For me, it works great. I think paying attention though to signs is important. So if you're like, all right, Rob said kraut's great, it's fermented, I'm going to go knock it out. And you eat some sauerkraut starting small, and all of a sudden you're bloated, gassy. The next day you're kind of like your mind's in a weird place. You're not horny. You don't get a morning wood. That sauerkraut just destroyed your life.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah, everyone's different, or people have histamine intolerances, which I'm learning about more. And not everyone can do certain things, and sauerkraut something, that could be really bad. But it's just interesting that it seems like you found the same kind of framework that, again, is the sapient idea, where you're getting the least toxic plant foods mixed with nose to tail animal foods. So, I cut out all the cruciferous vegetables a long time ago. I look for the plant foods that have the least anti-nutrients, and it sounds like that's like the beans have the lectins, like all the things you listed that weren't good. It's plants have things in them that protect them, and they don't want to be eaten.
Yeah, exactly. It makes really good sense. Plants are their role, their built-in genetics, if you will, is to survive and create more plants of its own kind. And they have defense mechanisms. And I think too that, again, going back to that analogy of like, okay, go to a harsh environment and try to survive off of the land. You're not going to find iceberg lettuce patches. You're not going to find kale patches. You're not going to find collard green patches. That's almost an industrial age type of food where we're farming and we're monocropping and we're starting to screw up the soil. So I think it's very interesting and a bit obvious now why the vegan diet did what it did to me and why I feel so different. And it's so funny when I work with clients. I work with a lot of ex-vegans, and it's usually the 1.5 to 2 week mark where I get that text where it's like, dude, I just had a huge boner. And it's 2 a.m. I have a morning wood. It's only 2. And I'm like, welcome back.
Your hormones are coming back online. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. What about, I like this dairy talk because it's always been a question for me. And going to Africa was kind of another one of these wake up calls. We're like, wow, this whole continent is sort of just thriving and surviving off of dairy. I mean, it's a huge source of nutrition for them, and no one seems to have problems. And then you kind of look more, and it's these are the A2 cows. They're doing it raw. They're doing all the right things. So maybe you could talk about dairy a bit more.
Yeah, for sure. And I've done a really extensive experiment that's probably 2 years old now, where I did basically only raw milk for 30 days, and my skin looked like I could have got a modeling contract, dude. I was like a porcelain redhead. It was amazing. But I think that my stomach was still getting used to all that milk, and I was a little poopy and gurgly and burgly and a little strange. But what I found for myself overall is that I used to demonize dairy big time across the board. Now, high quality raw cream and high quality butter, not even raw butter, even just like Kerrygold, it sets me so straight, and it's responsible for half of my calories every single day, and allows me to get a good amount of calories with small amount of food, allows me to just keep moving and working and doing my thing without having to make a meal or do all this stuff. My experimenting as far as client work is that across the board, ghee and butter and goat butter from quality sources, awesome. Cream for most people works pretty well. Where you start to fall into the place still in the United States where people might have some issues is with just normal raw milk. And maybe it's the source, they're not getting the real A2 good stuff. But as far as dairy goes, milk is the only one you got to really kind of test and maybe ease back into. But cream and butter so far has passed the test with flying colors and is actually what I would call one of my top staple health foods.
What about the like fermented stuff like kefir, cheeses, stuff like that?
Good question. I don't know how I left that out. So I've had great success with yogurt and kefir as well. I've also personally, I do fine with cheese. I have to limit it because I can get crazy with it because it's so delicious. Like if you let me loose, I will eat raw cheddar and slice up apples and eat it together like it's candy. It's a very carby situation. So, but yeah, man, I do fine with cheese. I don't eat it daily. I don't eat it even weekly, but if it's around, if I want it, I eat it and it makes me feel great. Clients with cheese are similar to the cream and the butter. Usually if it's aged or if it's raw cheddar or if it's something that's like a hard cheese that's sourced well, does great.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like if you're getting the lactose out, right?
Yeah.
That's what the aging does. And that's what the fermenting does. And yeah, I've never been a fan of just regular milk anyway. I mean, the regular milk is where you get the most lactose. And that seems to be the problem. And yeah, this is like some, Dr. Bill Schindler stuff I've had on the podcast a few times. And he like really gets into these foods are completely different products. Like they both have the same name, cheese, but the American cheese Kraft single compared to like a raw cheddar that's
your neighbor made.
Yeah, completely different. We shouldn't call them the same thing. They aren't the same thing. And from what I saw traveling, and I've been all other places too, people are eating dairy without any problems. And then in the US, we have so many problems with it. And it's not because we're just damaged or wrecked or just unable to eat it. It's because, well, we are metabolically damaged, but it's because we're just not doing it right. And we just have this concept of just, this is how we eat. This is processed food. This is normal to us. And it's not normal.
Right. And I think the perception too of the science around milk is totally bogus because try to find a single study about eggs or dairy that's done with quality sourced dairy or egg products. There's not one, not a single freaking one I haven't found. It's always store-bought crap eggs, which are a different world than pastured eggs, and store-bought ultra pasteurized low quality, non-A2, non-K2, and K1 milk. It's like, of course that shit's going to hurt people. It's horrible.
Couldn't agree more. Maybe you could talk more about your changes from the vegan ways and just your body composition, because I'm always interested in that. And, you said you put on like 30, 40 pounds of muscle and lean gains. And you did it. I'm always interested in lean gains too, because I don't know.
It was for me. I've been an athlete my entire life. I started doing some form of resistance training when I was about 11. My dad was a Marine and an athlete, and I just played every sport you could. In high school, I was, all state football and baseball. I played at the University of Utah. So I've been very avid. I have a good muscle memory. I think that was a big part of it. But as a vegan, I worked out and kept my body as fit as I could. I did a little bit of boxing. I did a lot of mountain climbing and cycling, and I'm a certified yoga therapist, a lot of yoga, a lot of like Idu Portal movement oriented stuff, a lot of sport, a lot of play, and a ton of, I haven't missed a week of resistance training since I was probably 15, so a good base. But as a vegan, I just kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I started out about 185 and ended up about 149. And I was always told by other vegans, like, oh, you're ripped or you're muscular. And it's like, okay, that's great, a great perception, but my body isn't supple or healthy right now. I'm 25 pounds below my just regular healthy weight if I don't try. And the thing is, I just wasn't feeling good. I didn't feel hormonal or strong or virile. My joints ached. I felt the way that I looked to myself, scrawny, dilapidated, weak. My eyes were sunken back, and I had a mouthful of crappy teeth. So I was like, okay, I think this vegan thing is not doing me well. But as I started eating the animal fats and animal proteins, I stopped doing cardio as much. That's probably the only thing for the first 3 months. But after that, I did way more cardio. So the first 3 months, I was doing probably 5 resistant training workouts per week, very organized, progressive overload, very, very, very just well programmed. And I was living in Manhattan, New York City, and I was walking around New York nonstop, like a couple hours a day. And with that type of workout, I wouldn't expect to gain any weight. I would just, keep your toned muscles and just kind of like stay there. I put on like 25 pounds in those first 2 months. And it was like, I was like looking in the mirror, like flexing constantly, like a little 13-year-old. And like my girlfriend was like, dude, what is going on? Like, are you doing shit on the side? Like, are you supplementing? And I'm like, no, not at all. And that just, the gains just kept going on for the full year. I've plateaued out at the end of 2019, 2020, I plateaued out. But then we could talk about this too. In 2020, I went from 175 to 215.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, what happened there?
I wanted to prove that you can bulk on not like an accidental bulk recomp, but like my weight is solidified. I'm 180, 85 pounds without trying. Now can I surplus my calories, stay healthy skin, stay healthy gut, and get big? Hell yeah, proved it. I got all the way up to 215, which was 4 weeks ago. And it was all carnivore with some fruit.
Wow. No, that's really cool because a lot of people ask me that too. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm a pretty, thin guy really. Like I don't do a lot of muscle work. I can't, I'm in LA. Everything's still closed. So that's good to know that you can do that. And did you do anything specific with the fruit, like timing wise, or just, do you have like strategic targeted carb ups type of stuff like that?
I did. If I would say that I just was natural man and just didn't really think about it, I'm not sure I would have had the gains that I had, but I did some cyclical carb cycling and I did absolutely no intermittent fasting, which I normally do intermittent fasting kind of just naturally daily. I was eating breakfast. Every third to fifth day, I would go from 40 grams of carbs up to 150. And that was it. It was just a cyclical carb cycling type of thing. And the carbs were mostly fruit and sometimes sweet potatoes. And my workouts were a little bit more hypertrophic bodybuilder style than my old workouts were a little bit more just like functional and athletic.
That's awesome. Well, good to know. What about some other lifestyle factors? And how does that affect the skin health?
I think that the lifestyle factors, and something I love about your work is you kind of mush the sapient thing into all aspects of life, which I do too. The diet, the daily movement, the cleansing and detox, they're all the same human. They're all needed. So besides the diet, I think that someone needs to be doing resistance training weekly, 2 times for minimum, and it can be as simple as some push-ups, some pull-ups, some walking lunges for people who just want to bare minimum. But the resistance training has to be a part of it. It has a huge alchemy with your hormones and your gut biome and your lymphatic system. So it's a major part of it. Number 2, humans aren't meant to work out 30 minutes a day. We need at least 3 hours of movement. And it can be resistance training as part of that, a walk, some gardening, some dancing, some fun, some sports, just like putting your headphones on while you're in a meeting and like walking around, just movement, picking stuff up, building stuff, farming, doing lawn work. That's got to be a part of your life as well. Spending time in nature, moving your body to get those negative ions, to get that positive energy, to disassociate yourself from computers and your phone, to de-stress, to kind of slow things down. It's all a part of the game. And as far as cleansing and detox, that's got to be done too for most people. Really basic stuff. Intermittent fasting, dry fasting, water fasting, organic coffee enemas, the salt flush, and the liver gallbladder flush are all the main cleansing tools that I've used and I use with my clients. And so combining some loose and gentle cleansing, combining some movement, sometimes intense, sometimes super gentle, resting enough, and then getting your diet on point will get you in the right direction. I think the thing that takes it over the top, and this is for some of my friends, the laughable thing, you got to make the whole process enjoyable. You're trying to overcome a disease. I know it's hard, but laugh, watch a funny movie, have a support system, eliminate negative people from your life, like on the spot, like get out by who's the people that are going to nourish me, who's on my level, who makes me feel like they see me for who I am, not my silly skin. Those things are huge.
I love that. Yeah, that's super important. I love the exercise part of it. Again, to bring it back to Africa, these people that we saw one gym the entire trip. We went through cities, we went through villages, we went everywhere, and they're always working out in a way, right? You're just always moving. And in America, we're like, oh, well, I sit all day and then I have my scheduled 30 minutes.
Right.
You just don't want to do. I just don't think that's natural at all.
I don't think that's natural at all. I honestly think, and this is a thing that I say often that scares people, but I think the human body is meant to be moving about 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
Like if you're again, not trying to be like a Nat Geo freak and Alaska.
Yeah.
I'm giving away what I watch on TV. Anyway, when you're in that environment, and I've been in those environments. I used to live in Mount Shasta, and I spent a winter really going out into the wilderness and pushing my limits, survival stuff. You find that just to get shelter, water, food, comfort, and maybe do a little exploring, that's the hardest work you're going to do, and that's going to take you 8 hours every day when you're out there. And that's just for people that live that lifestyle. That's not work. That's regular. The work is on top of that. So I think our society in the West is a mess. I actually think COVID's kind of throwing a wrinkle in things. I know a lot more people are like, ditching that morning meeting, and going for a walk because they're not at the office. No one knows what they're doing. So they're kind of bringing more movement into their lives, which I think is so helpful and so awesome. But most people, and even including myself sometimes, don't move enough.
Yeah, well, I think an easy thing to do is get a stand-up desk, and anyone can do that. You can just put some shoe boxes and put your computer up on a few shoe boxes, and you have a stand-up desk. So that was huge for me. Then you are moving around 8 hours a day.
Exactly.
Right?
You're standing, and there's little hacks that like keep a kettlebell, especially if you're working at home. Never go 30 minutes without doing a set of something. Like, okay, 30 minute, boom, there's your ringer, set a kettlebell. Another 30 minutes goes by, push-ups. Another 30 minutes go by, arm curls. Another 30 minutes go by, a few ab crunches, or set an hour timer. So every hour you're doing 10 seconds of working out. That actually makes the day go by super fast. It makes you feel super juiced. And that's all you need. If you did that 5 days a week, that's plenty of movement.
Yeah, absolutely. What about these other lifestyle factors? So we didn't touch on sleep or sun. Those are some of my favorites.
Ultra important. I love to talk about the sun first because most people think, oh, there's a ginger. He's probably like English, and he probably gets sunburned. I'm not English. I'm Scandinavian, so I do get tan. My relationship to the sun's slightly weird because I'm a redhead, which means that we can take in the vitamin D with 5% of what normal people need of the sun, which is something I recently found out. It's kind of cool. But the sun will only work if you have the right food in your body, though. That's the thing. If you don't have the cholesterol, if you don't have the saturated fats, if you don't have the proper amino acid profile and the proper amounts of omegas, the alchemy of turning cholesterol into testosterone just doesn't really happen that well. But if you are eating an animal-based diet and you get out into the sun, it's magic. It's instant testosterone, instant cholesterol building, instant metabolism, everything. It's so needed. And I think that the early morning sun and the sunset, late afternoon sun for people is the healthiest and the safest across the board. And I also think that even things like Juve or UV treatments can be a nice supplementary thing. Sleep, man. I don't even think that we have to talk too much about it. You have to get sleep. The one thing I will touch on though is sometimes people they put all of their eggs into the sleeping at night basket, and that's not every human. Especially again, if you look at tribal people, if you look at babies, if you look at like really kind of like avant-garde people, E equals MC squared, dude. Einstein.
Yeah.
2.5 hours of sleep, 2.5 hours of work, 2.5 hours of sleep, 24/7. That's what he did. But where I'm getting at is if you're not someone who can pass out at 10 and get your perfect 8 hours and then wake up all rejuvenated, you have to do other things like taking time out of your day to do a shavasana or like a cold shower or warm shower or something that allows you to slip into that restorative place more often if you don't sleep well. But if you sleep well, gosh, if you get your 6 to 8 good hours a night, it is so extremely helpful. And I prioritize sunlight and I do prioritize my sleep. I don't, unless something really fun's happening, I'm in bed in my zone like 9:30, 10 most nights.
Well, that's great. It's funny that everything lines up. I guess it's not funny. It's obvious, but we're talking about skin health and all the things to do are the same to have normal health.
Yeah, and I think that that's the whole rabbit out of the hat is like there is no separation. There's no difference between being a healthy human and being a human that can overcome an autoimmune disease or a skin disease or even things like diabetes, maybe even worse things like cancer. Like a healthy human is one that can have a nervous system and an autonomic nervous system and immune system that COVID, like dermatitis, get on out of here. Like it's not, human nature isn't to be diseased.
Yeah. And that's what another thing we found in Africa. None of these people had any of the problems that we have. And we really asked every single person, and we had great translators everywhere we went. And they had we asked them. I was with Mary Ruddick, a really amazing nutrition genius, and she would ask all these questions. Do they have pain during the day? Do they have knee pain? Do they have pain around the menstrual cycle? Do they have this? Do they have that? None of they were like, what are you talking about? We don't have it. Like,
Yeah.
What do they die of? They die of old age.
That's like a joke, right? Like ask an African, a tribesman, if what back pain is, and they'll be like,
oh, they have no idea. They're like, did you fall out of a tree? Yeah, my back hurt the day I fell out of a tree.
yeah,
And then it went away. Like it's just a completely different paradigm. And then the older people, we talked to some people that thought they were 120 years old. You know, we can't verify this. They definitely looked over 100. And they definitely had a daughter that was 90. So,
damn.
yeah. And then the grandson, it was crazy. We had 6 generations in one photo, and this lady was dancing around. She was jumping. She was pain-free, and she was talking about, well, for one, her animal-based diet that she grew up on, and now that's gone away because she got kicked out of the forest where they live. And that each generation is going downhill in their health. And the youngest generation does have all these little problems. So they're starting to have the problems that we have in the US.
Yeah, it's you see the same thing across the world, like rural Japan, and again, the Okinawa diet is not sea vegetables and sweet potatoes. It's sea animal food, tons of pork, and all the other stuff that's popularized. But even the Japanese, they were one of the longest derived centurion cultures ever, and now they're dwindling. They're mimicking and reflecting Western culture with their millennials and their people that are our age are not like Japanese from 85 and before. That was probably one of the healthiest cultures that we could have studied, and we missed the boat with them.
Yeah. Well, what other conditions do people see go away when they make their changes? Like you work with all these people.
Yeah.
And I'm sure other things happen other than their skin.
Almost every person that comes to me doesn't just have skin issues. There's always other underlying symptoms that correlate with them. most of them being things like IBS, irritable bowel, hormonal issues with thyroid, things like that. What I see, and it's not a miracle thing. It's not everyone's going to go from decrepit, diseased in 6 months from carnivore, be a freaking athlete, bodybuilder, stud that now is a genius. But what I have seen is that when you take the time to customize the diet and then you're consistent with it, here's my thought is that the pathology is this: the gut biome helps lead to the filtration system healing. The filtration system helps lead to the lymphatic system healing. So when the gut biome, filtration, lymphatic heals, the hormones start to bounce back. As the hormones start to bounce back, then the nervous and the immune system start to bounce back. Once all of those systems are pretty good, then the autonomic nervous system bounces back, then the skin. And so it kind of works itself up, the pathology starting with the gut biome. And I've seen incredible things happen. I've seen people that have had full-blown diabetes have no drugs at all after like a year. Sometimes after 9 months. I've worked with plenty of people who are way overweight and get their skin healthy and become very healthy and very athletic and very good at moving. The thing that I like the most, though, is the unseen changes, like the vitality, the mental acuity. When I look at a woman now compared to when I was vegan, my hormones are so much more intense. Hormonal stuff, mental stuff, things around anxiety, depression. Though I see a lot of that stuff getting so much better when people have the right nutrients and the right gut biome.
Yeah, that's so awesome. It really starts in the gut. And what you're talking about, this animal-based diet with the low anti-nutrient plant foods, it's basically just a gut healing diet. And then everything else kind of falls into place.
100%. And like I was saying earlier, when you do that long enough, then you have some wiggle room and you have some ability to sense food. So let's say you've been eating clean for a year and you've got your skin good and everything, biomarkers are great. You're just doing great. You go to that mom's house and she has that pie. And you're like, if I would have eaten this 6 months ago, I would have been destroyed for a month. I'm going to just be an experimenter and see what happens. And you eat the pie and the next day you kind of have a weird poop, but you're good. Like, you're like, oh my God, like I'm stronger. I'm more robust. I can handle a little bit. I'm not so weak. My gut has one pebble of white rice and I freak out for a year. No, now I can, I poop it out and whatever, I'm good. And I found that to be something that's really beautiful too, because let's face it, 90% of people that want to heal their skin, they don't want to eat meat and butter and salt for the rest of their life. That's a really challenging thing. And so when someone can go through the process of customizing their diet, get to a place where they know the staple foods that do them best, but also kind of know where they have wiggle room and can be a little more human, I think that's a really wonderful place for people to be in. That's where I get most excited, when a person can be healthy, normal.
Yeah, and that's what I've been doing. I've been doing the experimenting on my own, and that's why I do. I'm like, all right, I'll try this. I'm here. We're in Africa, or we're at this event, and I'm going to try it. And I noticed that yes, I can bounce back way quicker. But I had this question: do you think you can get to the place where you can handle it if you heal long enough that you can really? Well, I'm not saying just go out and eat trash all the time, but that you can just you breeze through something like that pie and
I do. I do personally. Like I could go to McDonald's right now, get a coffee, get 10 hash browns, biscuits and eggs and cheese, and eat that, eat pizza tonight. Tomorrow I'll wake up, my poop will be weird, but I won't feel anything. And my skin won't have budged, not even an iota. Maybe like a zit, but not skin disease. You know what I mean? So yeah, it definitely can be done. And it's not something I enjoy though. And that's kind of like the perplexing thing is like, I don't have a desire to eat cheat meals. I don't have a desire to eat all that crap because I like my diet. It's satisfying. It tastes really yummy. Like I look forward to my meals. And worst case scenario, if I'm craving something, I can make homemade ice cream with stevia and it's a health food for me. It makes my skin glow. It tastes wonderful. And I mean, I just don't have a need. And I think that that's something I try to stress is customizing your diet means having it be sustainable, and sustainable for most people means you got to make it taste good.
I love that message. Make it enjoyable, and I completely look forward to every meal. And yes, and it is a journey too, where in the beginning I was like, oh, I can't wait to have a cheat meal or something, like years ago. And now I just have no interest really in pursuing cheat meals. I mean, if it happens, it happens. I'm not saying I'm perfect, and I are admitted to, not being perfect, but I don't seek it
Yeah,
anymore.
it's a difference. And I think maybe that is because when you have an abundance of nutrients that are making you feel good, your body's not looking to fill that void. You know what I mean? Like when you have that craving for salt late at night, or when you have that craving for sweets late at night, you most likely, and I got this from the vegan world, so excuse me for throwing this in there, but generally, if you crave sweets, you are vitamin deficient. And if you crave salt, then you're mineral deficient. And so when you look at the sapien style, the carnivore style, animal-based diet, those things aren't going to be lacking, those two things.
Yeah. That kind of makes sense, because maybe, if you're wanting something sweet, it's like I guess more of the vitamins come in these sweet foods. So
like
and
fruit,
the minerals are saltier, like potassium, sodium, obviously. Interesting. So with specific conditions, so we talked about seborrheic dermatitis. So I know that's sort of like a bacterial type of thing on the skin, but it also like has something with the inside of your body, like what you eat, but then maybe it's also what you eat triggers the bacteria on your skin.
Definitely. Here's a funny thing. You go to a dermatologist. What are they going to tell you? They're going to tell you that every form of skin disease is different, has a different form of healing and a different system to take away the symptoms. They will categorize them as completely different elements, and they're not. Like what I found is that sebderm, eczema, psoriasis, rosacea, and all the 800 derivatives of it all have the same root issue, and they're not as different as people think. It's like the difference between a circular shaped scab and a vertical shaped scab on your body from a wound. They look different. They're just scabs. They're just the same thing. And the pathology to healing them is pretty much the same. Now, here's the part that's a little confusing is different forms of skin disease, I've noticed, do heal at different speeds. So for instance, sebderm on the face, that's one of the fastest ones to get rid of. Whereas psoriasis up the like elbow crooks and the knee crooks and the bottom of the feet, what a pain in the ass that is to get rid of. That takes a long time. Rosacea on the nose and cheeks, stubborn as a mother. But like eczema of the forearms and thighs, another one that pretty much goes away really fast. So there are some differences, but in general, I kind of mush them together.
Interesting. Yeah, it's one of these things with the doctors again, where I don't think they're malicious, but they're just, this is what they learned, that everything needs a different medication, and you're going, oh, here's a prescription, and they make money just making it seem like everything's got to be treated by its own chemical compound when, well, they just don't know, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think majority of doctors get into being a doctor because they're like interested in science and want to help people and have a good heart. And it's a good career. It's a cool thing. You get to do good school and learn a lot. But the way that the medical system is set up is it takes a really very like disciplined and mentally strong human to not give in to the factors of being a human. Like, for instance, you have a person that gives you all these drugs, and if you use these drugs for a certain symptom, you make some good ass money. Okay, well, you're going to have a natural bias now to kind of think those drugs are very helpful and you kind of like them. And your relationship to those drugs aren't the same as me, the guy who's diseased. And so from just a natural bias type of thing, they're kind of just doing their thing. I get it. I advocate more for the person going to the doctor. Like, it's not the doctor's fault. You went to the doctor. I haven't been to a doctor in 10 years. I won't go to a doctor. Break my arm, go to a doctor. Have a sniffle, have something that doesn't feel right, I'm going to fix it myself. You know what I mean? Because a doctor doesn't fix things. A doctor is awesome at operating.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I've talked enough about this in the past, and uh, what's interesting to me is the skin and how it works, and if you should use moisturizers and like clean it a lot or not. And I'm debating that with myself, and then I want to hear your thoughts. And then I also know that you tried the nose to tail skin food and some of the soaps and stuff like that. I want to hear your experience.
Great topic. So I'll start off with just my experience with the nose to tail products. They were awesome. I really loved them. I think that one of the things that I like most about it is that like such a small amount really lubricated and moisturized a large area, and the need to reapply was just non-existent. Like I would shave my head and then do the tallow, the skin food on my head, and I'd go to bed at night and I'd still be nice and supple and smooth, and just they were great. As far as, and this is a huge debate in the skin health world, and actually what I'm a bit in the middle of is the no moisture therapy and the no soap, no cleaning type of therapies. So far, my experience with them has been horrible. And they don't make any sense to me. Like a dehydrated, dirty human is at risk of infection and is not going to heal, period. And I know that there's a huge movement of natural hygiene where if you sweat 30 minutes, then you're clean. If you sweat for an hour, then you'll smell good. I still haven't seen that proven to me correctly yet either. With myself, and how much you do this is up to you, but you got to keep your skin clean when you have skin disease because it's super prone to infection. But you also have to use really natural, basic products, chemical free. The stuff that you put out, I think is I've already gotten a huge response from people being like, dude, I saw the video, I bought it right away. I've already put it on my face and it's freaking awesome. The animal fats work great. Natural oils work great. But again, I say this with a grain of salt. Every human's different. So for me, washing my face 3 to 5 times a week, showering 2 to 3 times every single day, that's my flow. That's what I like to do. It works perfect for me. That might not work for Johnny in Michigan with harsh ass water that doesn't have a filter, that doesn't pay attention to that stuff. He might only have to do twice cleaning his face or his body per week. But you have to stay away from being infected, and you can't poison your skin with the products that you're using. If you kind of stay in that more general place, I think people will be good. Yeah.
No, that makes sense because I'm trying to see both sides. Like I know I sell the stuff, but I'm not saying like I'll say, hey, some people may not need this stuff. Maybe if you can get away with it. I'm not saying be dirty all the time, but yeah, I like that you say, hey, maybe it's only twice a week that you need to really clean. But it was also interesting to hear that you have such a good routine and that you are cleansing a lot and that it's still working for you. So that's good to know because I thought it could be a problem.
I'm a Scorpio, so I'm a water sign. And so being in water, it really changes my mood. So my showers are both, I do the cold and hot showers a couple times a day. And they're also a transitional object. So I have really severe ADD and dyslexia. And for me to go from like doing a talk with you, then doing something else, I have to transition in between. And so I use like a tea break or a small workout or a shavasana or a shower as a transitional object for my brain so that I can kind of stay in a flow. But for me, I've noticed that my skin doesn't dry out more if I don't shower. And I get the idea behind NMT. I just don't really think that it's scientific. Like
Would you say NMT?
Okay, so NMT is a form that was created by a Japanese doctor named Dr. Kenji Soto, I believe. And it's where you dilute the amount of water that a person with skin disease drinks and who's suffering from steroid withdrawal mostly. So you lower the water, you up the activity, and you take away all forms of liquid on the body, including moisturizers. So the body just dries out and flakes out. And the idea is that because of the cortisone and the steroids that are within the creams that your body is withdrawing from, your body doesn't have the ability to release the cortisone and cortisol in the right ways to lubricate the skin. And so you have to dilute it and force the body to bring it back. And it's like, that's not how the body works. If you dilute your testosterone, it doesn't come back. You add testosterone, and then the testosterone actually balances out. You don't take away cholesterol to get the right amount of cholesterol. You just eat cholesterol in the body. So the whole idea of it doesn't make sense to me, and I haven't had good results with it at all.
You know what? I think I just put it together. I think it's this classic thing where we misunderstand our modern way of living. So if you use all the harsh soaps with all the chemicals and then you stop using them, it probably does help your body. But so I did this own experiment with myself. So I did do the no soaps, no nothing. I was just taking water showers only, and I did bounce back, and it was fine. But then when I started using my own products and I was testing them, this happened however many months ago, years ago. I started testing them a year ago. So I didn't have any of the problems. So I was using the tallow soap and I was using the skin food, and I was completely fine. So it wasn't that cleaning is bad. It was the normal soaps were bad with all the weird stuff.
100%. And I think there is also an aspect of this. It's like, let's make this as easy as possible. Like it's kind of hard to like not shower and not drink any water and not put anything on your skin. Like that's not a path that takes a warrior to get through that. Where I just think you can circumnavigate it just by switching up your products and just by paying attention to your own body chemistry a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, it just makes sense why people think that that's the path. Because again, people think, medication's the only route because people aren't going to make the lifestyle change, or they're just eating the bad foods anyway. But we're saying, yes, these products are bad. So I see how it's confusing.
Yeah.
These people, because they think the only method is to just remove all the products. It's like, no, just find some good products.
Exactly. And also spend a little bit of time just reading your labels around your house. Like, okay, you also, with skin disease, you do have to go all the way. Your soap that you wash your clothes in, that's got to be simple, hypoallergenic for sensitive skin. Look for the Eczema Foundation label on things. It's very helpful. With the stuff you clean your house with, if you're using bleach and harsh chemicals all around your house, your dermis and your skin is going to eat that up just like it eats up food that you put on it, lotions and moisturizers. And if you're using like really harsh treatments within like your HVAC unit or your air conditioning, and the air has just toxic materials in it, these things do really hold people back. Your deodorant, your toothpaste, your moisturizers, all of that just needs to be as basic and chemical free as you can find it. And a lot of times make your own stuff is the best.
Yeah. Well, we're doing a deodorant, so that's going to come soon. Yeah. I mean, I use like Redmond toothpaste, very simple.
Yep.
Just, definitely with the laundry detergent, don't get all those wacky scents and stuff in your laundry detergent. Yeah.
No, and colognes and body wash and body spray. And for girls, they like to do that, like that delicious Victoria's Secret strippery vanilla. It's like, oh yeah, trust me. I love that smell too, but that shit is messing with your dermatitis, girl. Like, stop.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So thanks for the video. So we did like an unpaid, you did a video review, and I just saw that come out, so people can watch that on your YouTube channel. But I like the feedback because you got the unscented stuff.
Yeah.
But then it does have a little bit of a animal, it's like it's beef tallow.
Yeah.
But so just for people, we do have the scented stuff, but it's only essential oils.
Right.
So we don't use any of those wacky fragrances and weird stuff. It's just real essential oils that are expensive. We have to source those well, and they're very pure. And then I like your idea of the coconut oil. So I'm going to talk to my guy. I make it with Tommy, and he, he's the brains behind the whole skin food line. And coconut oil sounds good. And it's sort of is it like a natural antiseptic kind of?
Big time. Antibacterial, antifungal, antimicrobial. It's great stuff. I think too, like the thing that I look back at the video and some of the comments when I watched it, I was like, the part that I wish I could have articulated better was that, like, if you watch the video, you might think that you guys don't have anything besides the unscented, which you guys do, which I didn't articulate that well enough. But what I found was that the skin food, it started to smell more like me as I used it more. Like, or I don't know, that was just like a weird thing. Like after first 12 days, I'd open up the jar, and instead of having that like nice little tallow smell, which I love, it was like it smells more like me. That's interesting. So I don't know if that's a real thing or was it just in my head, but that was cool.
Well, maybe you're getting your skin, your holobiome on it when you put your finger in it. And I think it just absorbs. Like this beef tallow is the original skin food. I mean, it's the most similar to our bodies, so your body can absorb it best, and you get all these fat soluble vitamins from it.
And it's amazing. Like right now, my feet are a wreck because I ruck. I don't know if people know what rucking is, but it's basically just throw a heavy backpack on, like 25 to 60 pounds, and you hike at a silly looking pace, like a military 4 mile per hour pace. It's really fun. But in Nebraska with our crappy weather, I was, walking through mountains at 14 below zero, wet feet for 5 hours, and my feet are jacked. My toenails are torn apart. I got calluses. The skin food is like Vaseline too. It's like it's thick, and like everything by the nighttime is all mushy and nice and soft again. Which that was a surprise about the skin food. Was like I'm never gonna use like a petroleum jelly, Aquaphor. I don't need it. I just use the tallow.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I never thought I'd use a skin product again until I started using it. And before we make it sound like a advertisement for my stuff, I do use, like, if I did mess around in Africa at the end of the trip, and I did have some weird little flaky stuff on my eyebrows, and I used the skin food, and it just kind of like overnight kind of goes away. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really do think that it is because, and I think that the reason the animal-based diet works so well, and I get flack from this from nutritionists mostly because, I don't know, they just don't believe this for some reason, but I've noticed that anytime you're eating or putting onto your skin the same nutrients that your body's made of, the human body especially, it does really well with that stuff. Amino acids, cholesterol, saturated fat, and omegas. I mean, from an animal source, like your body is that. Of course, it's going to understand what to do with it.
Yeah. I mean, that's why the plant-based diet is kind of confusing. It's your body taking a foreign foreign source and trying to, remake the nutrients into something it can use. Yeah. And I mean, that's why you had all these deficiencies and problems, it seems.
Big time, for sure.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Well, let's talk about your channel real quick and where people can find you, because we didn't go into all the details. I know there's more work you do with people on like the cleansing routines, or I was interested to hear about your actual detox stuff. Like I haven't really talked to anyone about, say, a coffee enema before or a salt water thing, but where can people, work with you and that type of thing?
Yeah, so my website is holistichealthactivation.com. That's where you can buy my ebooks and sign up for online coaching. My YouTube channel is just my name, Rob Stuart, ROBSTUART. Same thing with my Instagram, it's Stuart, Rob Stuart. And I'm putting up something on social media daily, either on Instagram or on YouTube. And 2021 is going to be a year of content. I'm going to really push the envelope for as much as I can get out. I'm kind of reinventing how I coach with people so that I can have a little bit more focus on reaching bigger groups and having content and spending my time in front of more people. So it's going to be some growth within the channel. I have written 3 new books that is going to take the place of my old workbook that's called the 3 Phases Workbook, which is a step-by-step guide for healing the skin. So yeah, I hope to see everyone who's got skin disease jump in on the community. There are other channels that are similar to mine, and we all are kind of a big friendly group. It's a nice community. So yeah, check us out.
That's awesome. So I think I'd like to kind of make this sapien community bigger and better. And I love the idea of having all the different practitioners and be part of this world. So maybe, you could be the skin guy for sapien.
I would love that, man. Yeah, we can definitely talk more about that. And I would love it. Anything I can do to get the message out there and work with awesome people like you, I'm all about it.
Cool. Well, let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for all this info. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me. Great talk. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Okay, thanks for listening, everyone. Be sure to share with a friend, give it a review on the Apple Podcast app or iTunes. Start back at episode 1. Go to nosetotail.org for all the great meats delivered to you, the biltong, the body care products we mentioned in this episode, the skin food especially. My skin is at an all-time high right now after using these products since I got home from Africa. We also have the seasonings, like I mentioned, freshly ground for a whole bunch of flavor you can't get anywhere else, and all of our custom blends you can't get anywhere else. Plus a Sweet Dreams one that I put into coffee, ice cream. I actually even made banana bread for the first time using some coconut flour. Very good stuff. Nosetotail.org. Also the Sapien program at sapien.org. 10-week program can be done anywhere in the world. And join the tribe. Be part of the tribe. Come hang out with us. I'm about to go live tomorrow with Dr. Gary, and we're going to hang out with the tribe members. It's really cool. Just a small group, and we actually get to know each other and learn from each other. So join there at sapien.org. We have a few lifetime memberships left. All right, that's it. The next 2 episodes will be with Mary again so we can continue our African adventures. See you soon.